Chapter 4. House Hunting. Section 1. Now that Mary was expecting, she and Arthur decided that they ought to be thinking of finding a place of their own, as their flat in Earl's Court was not very suitable for bringing up children in. Moreover, Mary felt that with all the traffic, the air in central London was too polluted for a young baby to breathe. She said she wanted a house in the suburbs with a garden. Arthur thought that it would be a good idea to look for a property in the Epping Forest area, which was fairly near to his work in Enfield. Epping itself, despite its proximity to London, still retains the character of a small country town. It's almost completely surrounded by the forest, which is now a playground for the people of London. Although the forest isn't very big, it's very thick in places, and is quite easy to get lost in. The Saturday following Mary's visit to the doctor's, she and Arthur got up early and went to Epping, arriving there just after 9 o'clock. They walked up and down the High Street, having a look at the town generally. They looked at the photographs and read the descriptions of various houses in an estate agent's window. All the properties they liked were much too expensive for them, however. They wouldn't have been able to find enough money to pay the deposit on any of them. Also, they would have had to borrow so much on the mortgage that the monthly repayments would have been beyond their means. They walked further down the High Street and looked at one or two other estate agents' windows, and eventually found one or two houses which seemed just within their price bracket. They arranged to view 3 of them, one in the morning and the other 2 in the afternoon. They didn't like the first 2 they saw. One of them was on an estate miles away from the shops or public transport, and the other needed a lot of money spending on it. By the time they got round to viewing the 3rd house, they were feeling somewhat depressed.
Hello again.
Hello.
Now, it was that property in Mafeking Terrace you wanted to look at, wasn't it?
Yes. It was Mafeking Terrace, wasn't it, Mary?
That's right.
Well, wait a sec. I'll just get the keys, and we'll go out the back way to my car. Here we are. It's quite a nice road, isn't it?
Arthur, look at all those motorbikes next door.
Oh, dear. And I can't say I go for the red and white paintwork very much either.
Well, you expect to have to redecorate when you move into a new home, don't you? Everybody's tastes differ. Well, here we are. This is the hall.
Ooh, it smells a bit damp, doesn't it?
Oh, that's nothing. It's because it's been unoccupied for 6 months or so.
I'm not surprised.
I beg your pardon, sir?
Oh, nothing. This is the front room, is it?
Yes, it's quite a good size. Not too big. Easy to keep warm.
Arthur, look at the wallpaper.
Yes. I see that the mice have been having a good time here.
Well, I think I'll take you through to the kitchen now.
Isn't it dark in here?
Yes. There's just this one tiny window with a good view of next door's dustbins.
Oh, Arthur, I'm definitely not living here. I couldn't possibly bring up a baby in these surroundings.
Yes, I agree. We've seen enough, thanks.
Section 2. The passage comes from a book written by Michael Llewellyn, which describes the problems involved in buying or selling property.
You will have no difficulty in making contact with the agent. As you enter his office, you will be greeted immediately and politely asked what you're looking for. The estate agent's negotiator, as he is called, will probably check that you really know your financial position. No harm in that, but you can always tell him that you have confirmed the position with the XYZ Building Society. He will accept that. He will show you the details of a whole range of properties, many of them not really what you're looking for at all. That does not matter. Far better turn them down than risk missing the right one. The printed details he will give you are called particulars. Over the years, a whole language has grown up solely for use in agents' particulars. It is flowery, ornate, and providing you read it carefully and discount the adjectives, it can be very accurate and helpful. Since the passing of the Trades Description Act, any trader trying to sell something has had to be very careful as to what they say about it. Estate agents have, by now, become very competent at going as far as they dare. For instance, it is quite acceptable to say, delightfully situated. That is an expression of his opinion. You may not agree, but he might like the idea of living next to the gasworks. If, on the other hand, he says that the house has 5 bedrooms, when in fact it has only 2, that is a misstatement of fact, and is an offence. This has made estate agents, and others for that matter, rather more careful. Basically, all that you need to know about a house is how many bedrooms it has, an indication of their size, whether the house has a garage, whether there is a garden, and whether it is at the back or the front of the house, whether it is semi-detached, detached, or terraced.
Oral Practice 1. Practice saying these sentences from the dialogue.
Wasn't it, Mary? Mafeking Terrace, wasn't it, Mary? It was Mafeking Terrace, wasn't it, Mary? Very much either. The red and white paintwork, very much either. I go for the red and white paintwork, very much either. I can't say I go for the red and white paintwork very much either.
Don't you? A new home, don't you? When you move into a new home, don't you? Have to redecorate when you move into a new home, don't you? You expect to have to redecorate when you move into a new home, don't you? Well, you expect to have to redecorate when you move into a new home, don't you? "6 months or so. Been unoccupied for 6 months or so. It's because it's been unoccupied for 6 months or so.
In these surroundings? A baby in these surroundings? Bring up a baby in these surroundings? I couldn't possibly bring up a baby in these surroundings.
Oral Practice 2. Listen to the dialogue and then take the part of B.
What did you do with yourself yesterday, then?
Oh, house hunting again. We looked at 3 houses in Epping.
Oh, did you? Did you see anything you fancied?
Yes, we liked one of them very much indeed. The other 2 weren't very exciting, though.
What was the one you fancied like?
Well, it was a 15th century thatched cottage in a lane just outside the village.
Oh, what sort of state was it in? In my experience, some of these old places can be pretty primitive.
Oh, no. It had been done up very well. There's central heating, a modern fitted kitchen, a tiled bathroom, and a lovely garden. The rooms were a decent size, too.
It sounds marvellous. What were the snags?
There was only one snag. The price. They wanted the earth for it.
Oh dear, what a shame.
Well, I expect we'll find something in the end. Now, wind the tape back to the beginning of this dialogue, and this time, speak at the same time as B. Now, here's the dialogue again, and this time, you take the part of B.
What did you do with yourself yesterday, then? Oh, did you? Did you see anything you fancied? What was the one you fancied like? Oh, what sort of state was it in? In my experience, some of these old places can be pretty primitive. It sounds marvellous. What were the snags? Oh dear, what a shame.
Oral Practice 3. Listen to Michael Coles talking to Alan Inglis about buying a house. Then answer the questions in your book.
Alan, I hear you've bought a house recently. Could you tell me any problems you had?
Well, obviously the first problem is finding the house. In this you've got to view a large number of houses, covering the area in which you would like to live. Then, of course, you've got to think of the price range, which corresponds to the amount of capital you have available, and also to the amount of money which is available to you from the building society. Normally, one obtains a mortgage from a building society. There are other possibilities, but I, in fact, sought a loan from a building society. And, you know, the first problem was then to locate a house which fell into the range of prices which my initial capital plus my status, in other words, the amount of money that I could borrow from the building society, made possible. This obviously results in a certain amount of limitation. I mean, one can't sort of walk along and say, make an offer for Buckingham Palace. One is obliged to confine oneself to the kind of house which falls into the range of this. This means that one's choice is restricted. In other words,
obviously your choice is restricted, but obviously the price range is important. But could you tell me what are the other main considerations that you found that you wanted to think about?
As far as I personally am concerned, I was looking for a house which was close to public transport. In other words, and a house which was relatively close to my place of work, because I don't like commuting. In other words, I was interested in finding a house which was close to London transport tubes and also to some extent to buses, although tubes I find more convenient than buses, and also to Ealing Technical College, which is my place of work. However, the overriding consideration, as far as I was concerned, was the amount of accommodation, if you like, per square foot, which was available corresponding to the amount of money that I was in fact capable of paying.
Good. Do you think the outside or the inside are the most important parts of the house?
This depends on whether you are looking at the house as a place where you're going to live for a short time or for a long time. If you're going to live in a house for a long time, I think that both are equally important. In other words, that obviously the situation of the house is very important, because you want to live in pleasant surroundings, perhaps have access to some kind of greenery, whether it be a park or trees or something like this, where traffic is not particularly oppressive. On the other hand, you also are very concerned about the nature of the accommodation indoors. Now, if you were thinking in terms of a fairly short period, I would have thought that the accommodation within the four walls is more important than the accommodation outside. Because you are really concerned, this is where your style of life is particularly determined. In other words, do you have enough space for a large kitchen? Is a large kitchen important to you? In other words, are you interested in cooking and this sort of thing, and entertaining? Or, in fact, are you a family man, therefore you require a lot of bedrooms? In my case, not being a family man, I was interested, nevertheless, in the number of bedrooms, in that I wanted to put up friends when they were paying short visits.
Oral Practice 4. Present Perfect Continuous Tense. Listen to the examples first.
I see they're repairing the road.
Yes, they've been repairing it for ages.
Yes, they've been repairing it for ages.
I notice that Jane drives a car now.
Yes, she's been driving one for ages.
Yes, she's been driving one for ages. Now, you do the same.
I see they're repairing the road.
Yes, they've been repairing it for ages.
I notice that Jane drives a car now.
Yes, she's been driving one for ages.
The children seem to be playing quite happily.
Yes, they've been playing for ages.
Did you know that Geoffrey smokes now?
Yes, he's been smoking for ages.
I suppose you know your tap stripping.
Yes, it's been dripping for ages.
Is Diana still getting ready?
Yes, she's been getting ready for ages.
They're building a new office block, I see.
Yes, they've been building it for ages.
Jack's going out with Stella, isn't he?
Yes, he's been going out with her for ages. That's the end of Oral Practice 4. Oral Practice 5. In this drill, you must choose between the present perfect continuous and the present perfect simple. Listen to the examples first. Some of my cigars are missing.
Well, I haven't been smoking them.
Well, I haven't been smoking them.
All my brandy has gone too.
Well, I haven't drunk it.
Well, I haven't drunk it.
Now you carry on. Some of my cigars are missing.
Well, I haven't been smoking them.
All my brandy has gone too.
Well, I haven't drunk it.
And quite a few apples have gone from my tree.
Well, I haven't been eating them.
And my razor is blunt.
Well, I haven't been using it.
And my only peach has gone too.
Well, I haven't eaten it.
My best jacket's all covered with beer stains.
Well, I haven't been wearing it.
Somebody's left the top off my tube of toothpaste.
Well, I haven't been using it.
And my best vase is broken.
Well, I haven't broken it.
That's the end of Oral Practice 5. Oral Practice 6. In this drill, you must reproach the first speaker for not treating you as well as Barbara. Listen to the examples first.
I took Barbara to the cinema last night.
You might have taken me too.
You might have taken me too.
I'm just going to clean Barbara's shoes.
You might clean mine too.
You might clean mine too.
Now you go on in the same way.
I took Barbara to the cinema last night.
You might have taken me too.
I'm just going to clean Barbara's shoes.
You might clean mine too.
I've brought a present for Barbara.
You might have brought one for me too.
Barbara, may I offer you a drink?
You might offer me one too.
I invited Barbara to dinner last week.
You might have invited me too.
I'm going to teach Barbara to drive.
You might teach me too.
Barbara, may I carry your parcels?
You might carry mine too.
I wrote a letter to Barbara when I was on holiday.
You might have written one to me too.
That's the end of Oral Practice 6. Oral Practice 7. Dictation. First, cover up the passage and listen, please. Once, when I was looking for my first house, my wife and I inspected a small property that was owned by a widow. When we went inside, we noticed that although the furniture and pictures and ornaments were in very bad taste, the house had been kept absolutely spotless. There wasn't so much as a speck of dirt anywhere. The widow was very proud of her house. She talked about her beautiful garden, her beautiful bathroom, and her magnificent sitting room. When we told her that we were interested in buying the house, she said that she would have to think it over, because she wasn't sure that she wanted to sell it after all. Now you hear the passage again, and this time you must write down what you hear. Once, when I was looking for my first house, my wife and I inspected a small property that was owned by a widow. When we went inside, we noticed that although the furniture and pictures and ornaments were in very bad taste, the house had been kept absolutely spotless. There wasn't so much as a speck of dirt anywhere. The widow was very proud of her house. She talked about her beautiful garden, her beautiful bathroom, and her magnificent sitting room. When we told her that we were interested in buying the house, she said that she would have to think it over, because she wasn't sure that she wanted to sell it after all. Now here's the passage again. Once, when I was looking for my first house, my wife and I inspected a small property that was owned by a widow. When we went inside, we noticed that although the furniture and pictures and ornaments were in very bad taste, the house had been kept absolutely spotless. There wasn't so much as a speck of dirt anywhere. The widow was very proud of her house. She talked about her beautiful garden, her beautiful bathroom, and her magnificent sitting room. When we told her that we were interested in buying the house, she said that she would have to think it over, because she wasn't sure that she wanted to sell it after all. Now check the dictation in your book. That's the end of Chapter 4.